to do it like this.
Start it.
Are you ready?
I guess.
I'm not. All right. You stand up.
How's everybody doing today? My name is Andrew James, and I will be discussing job description. First off, job description is a written document that contains job information about the job. It is also a list of tasks, duties. To continue on, it's important to know that job description is the basis for performance and management and appraisal. It is also a basis for determining the appropriate level of pay to get the work done. To start off a job description, we look into the identifying information. That's the first thing that's going to pop up when you're looking at one. It discusses the title of the position you're going to be applying for, the department it's for, as well as the salary that you'll be making. Next up, below that, would be the supervisory responsibilities. So if you will be supervising anybody, this will be the part that will say that. So will you be supervising others? If so, how many will you be supervising? And there'll be a list of responsibilities below that. Next up in the job description is the position summary. It will be an overview of the job. It's the purpose of the job, and this portion is usually a small paragraph between 2 to 5 sentences. Below that is the essential job functions. So this will conclude the complexity of the tasks you'll be doing, the frequency of the tasks, and if you'll be having any relationships or working with other people in this section. Next up is the non-essential job functions. These are functions that are not necessarily going to be a part of your job, but they can be performed as another job in the organization. They can be moved to accommodate for disabled employees. Next up in the job description, it will discuss the equipment that will be operated. So this is a list of tools, the equipment, any hazardous equipment that you may be using, or will you be required to wear a uniform. Next up in the job analysis and job description would be the job specifications. This states the minimum qualifications needed for successful performance of the job. It is a list of knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics that an individual must have to do that job. And below that would be the education, licenses, and certificates required to do that job. So it will start out, do you need a bachelor's degree to complete this job? Do you need a specific certificate in human resources to do that job? Next up would be communication skills. We'll be working in groups. What will the position require? Will you be doing presentations such as this? Will you be communicating orally, or will be there little to no communication whatsoever for the job? Next up is the experience required to do the job. So did you have any previous work experience in this area? If so, how long? And this will tell you next up in job specifications is the skills. So any skills necessary to perform this job. So let's just say you are a journalist. You may need to know the proper use of Microsoft Office, or if you're an engineer, you need to know how to use CAD and CAM design. Next up is the physical requirements for the job, and this is to comply with the ADA. It must be related to the essential job function, so this will discuss will you have to do any heavy lifting, will you be running, will you have to walk around and do your job. Next up is the mental requirements for the job. This is also per ADA, and it describes the mental acuity required to perform the job. So will you be doing any reading or writing or doing any math? Next up would be the work environment. Will you be working in an office? Will you be required to sit down? I'm a teller at a bank, so I'm required to stand. I'd like to know that if I'm starting my job. Lastly, it must be approved and signed by a manager for accuracy. This is an example for an HR analyst. So it starts out with the job description, then there's the summary, and I threw in work environment. Summary, responsible for performing human resource administrative support. And the new and you, we can all relate to job description and job specifications at this point in our lives. We're at our college career where we're going to be applying for internships and jobs, and this is the time we're going to be seeing most of those in our lives. It is important to remember, we should keep in mind that the analysis focuses on the job, not the person. Also, these are two important definitions you should probably know if you're talking about job analysis. And I will be introducing Maria. She is next up. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you, Andrew, for your input on job descriptions and specifications. I'd like to introduce my portion of the presentation on job analysis. I will touch on sources of data and methods of collecting data. Before you begin any method of collecting data, you should gather as much information as you can about the job. There are several sources in which you can draw upon to gather this information. One example would be the job incumbent, who is very familiar with the job. A supervisor or manager, they can be extremely useful in defining the job, or a former job holder, who may provide a lot of unbiased information. A job analyst, which is a specialist in job analysis. A subject matter expert, an authority in a particular area or topic, like Dr. Casper. Industry resources, which specific associations that may provide job descriptions. Data sources also include professional organizations like SHRM, which is a good starting point for job descriptions, and the ONET, which is an online resource of the Dictionary of Occupational Titles. Now I'm going to discuss the three most commonly used methods of data collection: the observation method, the interview method, and the questionnaire. Method number one is the interview. It appeared to be the most commonly used method. The interview can be done on a one-on-one setting or in a group setting. The interviewee may be the incumbent, a manager, or a supervisor. I'd like to mention two types of interview: unstructured or structured. Unstructured is free-flowing format. There's no preset lines of questionings. However, the interviewer will state the purpose of the study and the focus of the interview. Structured interviews use a customized, standardized format. Some benefits to this interview: the incumbent is most familiar with the job. You can get a thorough sense of the job or the topic. It's a good method for jobs that have long cycles, and it provides qualitative information. The cons: information is dependent upon the skilled interviewer. It's a time-consuming process, and it is costly. The second method is the observation method. It's another commonly used method. It involves direct observation with a person as an observer and a subject, and indirect observation via films when it is not feasible to be on site. The benefits: you can get a lot of first-hand knowledge of the task, the pace conditions, equipment, relationships with other workers. It provides a lot of information in a short time. It's conducive for short cycle and repetitive tasks. It provides quantitative and qualitative information. The cons would be: the presence of an observer can distract the worker. It interferes with the job, and you can't observe mental skills. Method 3 is the questionnaire. It's commonly used. It involves an incumbent, a supervisor, or manager. It can be structured or unstructured. The structured, most familiar questionnaire is the Position Analyst Questionnaire. It contains over 140 items that cover a wide range of elements. An unstructured example is an open-ended questionnaire in which you could elaborate your answers. The benefits: you can get a lot of information on many employees and jobs. It's efficient, inexpensive, and the questionnaire will be anonymous. Some of the disadvantages: it's difficult to develop and test questionnaires, and that can be quite time-consuming. And employee participation can yield a low response rate and/or incomplete questionnaires. Some suggestions would be to use multiple methods so that you can get a more accurate and reliable outcome than just taking into account information obtained from one method. And you should verify the information with a supervisor or manager. Consider the time that it takes, the cost that is incurred, and the accuracy of all your information. I don't know what happened to my new and you, but thank you. And the next presenter is Jeffrey Rodriguez.
How's everybody doing? My name is Jeffrey. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about performance appraisals. We'll wait for that to start up. All right. So by definition, it's the evaluation of the performance of employees and to understand the abilities of a person for further growth and development. So basically, you're being evaluated by your supervisor for your performance in the workplace. So usually people hear performance appraisals and they freak out because they think they're going to get poor reviews by their supervisor or their job may be at risk. But in reality, performance appraisals are beneficial and they actually can have positives to them. So why should an organization waste their time and money on executing these evaluations? Well, managers usually work 40 hours already, so they have to have some kind of benefit to doing these. And some of them would be reviews help better understand employee abilities. They can recognize achievements employees do and evaluate their job progress. Or you can design training for further development and change. If the economy's changing or workplace changing, they need new changes. Or setting goals for employees. It should be based on job description. It should be realistic, measurable, observable, and challenging for the employees, so they know have something to work towards. You can measure performance. Systems can measure performance numerically, 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. You can use terms, high and low. Measured by objectives, basically setting objectives and employees having to fulfill them. Different formats when conducting evaluations. There's a narrative where you get a short essay from your supervisor telling you how you did based on your objectives or everything, or you can rank them highest to lowest, or you can get a feedback system. Feedback's a great way for a supervisor to communicate an employee's strengths and weaknesses directly with the evaluated employee, so they know what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong so they can improve on it. Employee feedback's, employees really add their comments or overall reaction to the evaluation via email. It's always good to hear their thoughts after criticizing their performance, so you can hear kind of both sides of the story, and a deadline should be issued for the feedback. Preparation for the feedback, supervisors should keep a weekly log of individuals' performance, so that reduces the chance of rating errors. It makes writing the evaluation easier, and it supports the ratings given in the appraisal. So, all right, some benefits from it. So compensation. With all the information gathered through a job analysis, employers can give worth to performance. So if an employee is performing extremely high, they can get extra benefits, higher salary rates, allowances, etc. On the other hand, poor performance can result in either a transfer in department, demotion, or if last resort being termination and letting go of the employee for good. Performance appraisals actually serve as a motivational tool, and motivation is defined as the condition of being eager to act or work. So successful organizations utilize many different options to maximize motivation in the workplace so the employee productivity can rise. Like I said, how it serves as a motivational tool, just acknowledging an employee's hard work. That's like an intrinsic reward. Their internal hard work will continue to rise. Or you can get extrinsic ones like promotion or compensate them more. There are some flaws with performance appraisals. It can tend to stress employees, or actually feelings can interfere and cause the evaluator to either be too lenient on an employee or too hard on them. Some other flaws are like some employees can get confused, or employees can butter up the boss by basically being like a teacher's pet in kind of way in the workplace, or backstabbing within the organization to make somebody look better. New and you actually worked for a company, JTR Corporations, where we had yearly performance appraisals, and we were rated on a numerical scale, 1 to 10, and usually the top 2 highest ratings would be compensated at the end of the year by either bonuses, a promotion, or higher, or even just a motivational factor. I know that I had a performance appraisal, and my boss would just simply be, "Oh, you're doing a good job." That by itself actually just makes an employee feel better, and it will actually motivate them to